There's a lot of companies that have a great product or a great service, but they haven't quite been able to push things over the top, and they don't know why. People don't realize how much a name can work for you or against you, and the power of a company's name is drastically underestimated. The first thing to consider is what people think about right when they hear it for the first time. There's a lot more to it than just saying, I think I'll call my company Google, and then focus on promoting it. And if you don't believe that, do some homework on what Google actually means and why that name has worked out so well. People tend to get caught up in what they want a company name to be, and what they really should be getting caught up in is the ability to get that name to instantly get someone's attention. Ray Kroc ran across this among other challenges when he was building the McDonald's in the 1960s. He was trying to sell franchises for $900 and he couldn't figure out why people weren't just jumping on it. He started to notice comments about the quality of fast food, and he realized that people weren't focused on the big picture. Ray knew that it wasn't exactly health food, but his vision was that the demand for cheap and fast far outweighed what people were focused on. One of the greatest lessons that Ray Kroc taught the world was to focus on what was important. There's people that focus on a Facebook post more than they do on their own kids, and this is what's important when you're choosing a name. You have to focus on what people instantly feel when they hear it. Historically, the need to get someone to feel or to get their attention so quickly wasn't as much of a challenge as it is today. I can remember going to seminars in the 90s and people were very focused on the speaker. Now they spend half their time looking down at their phones. Years ago, we could easily focus for an hour on any topic, and we could retain most of the information, if not all of it. But today, we're lucky to get minutes out of a crowd, because after a few minutes sitting in any environment, people start to wonder if they got a text message, or I wonder if anyone replied to my post yet. It's only been 15 seconds. People have never been as mentally sidetracked as they are now. And if that's what's happening, that's what we need to learn to work with. We're a long way from being able to manage all of the information that's coming at us from so many different directions. And with today's portable technology alone, that's literally at our fingertips, people's focus is more scattered than ever. If you can't get someone's attention quick, you may never. And the ability for something as simple as your company name to fill that gap is actually pretty easy to do. The name Google is a great example, because if you walked into a room and said, hey guys, I'm going to name my new company Google, there would be an instant reaction, and because of that alone, you win, because you just got their attention. Most people think the name Google is part of an ongoing trend where people just make up a meaningless name and then pile on a ton of marketing and promotion. When in reality, the name is a play on the word Google, which represents the number 1 with 100 zeros behind it. And to the human mind, this is an infinite amount, something that we can't even comprehend, which was what the founders wanted their name to represent. Sometimes a good name is only good for so long, and a lot of companies, once they get rolling, realize this is working, but it isn't really what we do. It isn't quite what we originally had planned, and the name doesn't reflect what we do anymore. Google's startup name was actually Backrub, and that was an active search engine on Stanford servers till about 1997. And that name worked for a while for what the company represented at the time, but their vision was a global mega source of information, and the name Backrub just wasn't going to do it. The name Google did. The Philip Morris Company got known for cancer sticks, and a few years ago they changed their name to the Ultra Group, and most people thought, well, that's not going to change anything. They still make cancer sticks. But the name change drew attention to the company, which is pretty much the definition of good marketing, and that caused people to find out that they were also involved in the Kraft Foods company and a big wine company. They didn't just make cigarettes. The name change may have actually saved that company's other financial interests. Changing an established name seems like it would be a real hassle, but it also stimulates other activity, and it may just be that one thing that you need to get to the next level. Henry John Deutschendorf Jr., for example, didn't exactly roll off the tongue, and it didn't look good up in lights, so when Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. changed his name to John Denver, something simple, something familiar and relatable, people started coming to the shows. Think about society's perception of what your name means to them. Blue Ribbon Sports didn't communicate what the company wanted people to see them as, so they changed their name to Nike. And Marion Morrison didn't quite sound like a Western movie star, so he changed his name to John Wayne. There's a lot of power in a name, and when you name something, you're giving it power. A while back, I was helping a nonprofit group with sponsorships and donations for an event that they were having. I was talking to local businesses that I knew, and when I first mentioned the company name that I was representing, it was almost like I lost them. And these were companies that I knew well, people that would support something just because I asked them to. As we talked, I went on to explain who the group was and what they represented, and I got the support I was looking for, but I also got a front row seat to watching people get hung up on a name. I was there in person to clarify, and I got what I went in for. But if it was a mailer, for example, that support wouldn't have been there. As I watched this happening, I changed my strategy, and I opened up with what the organization represented, who they were and what they did. And when the interest hit a point of me feeling like I got a good bite, I could mention that name that people were getting hung up on, but it didn't matter anymore. And I realized why. The first impression had been established, and that's the power of a name. It's your first impression. Because of so many successful online names, people sometimes want to argue that a name doesn't matter. All you have to do is come up with anything and then promote the heck out of it. Well, if you come up with something that isn't working, or a reverse name, a name that's working against you, promoting it isn't going to help. If a company name is something that people don't react positively to and you promote it, it's likely that you're only going to end up having more people that don't like it, or worse, more people that don't support what you represent. Think of names as the forward, neutral, and reverse on a car. A reverse name could be actually working against you. A neutral name would be something like Apple or Ford. It may take a bit more promotion or marketing on your part to get the name out there because it doesn't quite bite, but it's fairly harmless and there's virtually no risk of it hurting you. And the benefit of maybe you never have to change it, don't have to deal with that. But like a car in neutral, you might have to push it a bit. A forward name would be one that makes an impression for you, which in today's multifaceted hundreds of ways to advertise society, it might actually save you a little bit of promotional money later. There's a great example of a forward name company in Southwest Florida called StormSmart. This company represents wind-resistant glass and storm shutters, heavy-duty garage doors, things like that. When you think about the part of the world, Southwest Florida, it has little risk of mudslides or earthquakes, but when you say the word storm in a busy room, people hear you. This is a place well known for hurricanes and much more, the damage that gets left behind. So the first name Storm is an instant attention getter. The second name, Smart, who doesn't want to be smart? You almost feel like an idiot not to at least consider them if you're in the market for that kind of product. In that same part of the state, there's a real estate company called Wonderland Realty. What a great name for a real estate business in a tropical environment. Society is drawn to respect. So naming something after a person is almost always a big hit because it shows respect for someone that had something to do with the development of that enterprise. When you say the Joe Smith Foundation, you're putting a personalization on it and people want to find out who Joe Smith is. That brings us right back to the secret. You're causing them to think. And if you're thinking about letters, the magic number is 3, like JFK or CBS, and 2 letters followed by the name is also known to work. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. But companies with a 4-letter abbreviation traditionally haven't had a great success rate drawing people to their name. And stock market studies have also shown that investors are more attracted to simple and short names. CTRC stood for Computing, Tabulating, Recording Company. It didn't exactly flow. The new name works much better, International Business Machines, which has roots all the way back to the 1800s, and it happens to be the largest computer company in the world. Not because of its name, IBM, but obviously the name works. Being able to instantly harness someone's attention today is quite an accomplishment. So if you're naming something, you're giving it power. And when you step on the gas, you need to know that it's going to go forward.